Hello, people, and welcome to another chat. With me today, I have Golden Eagle Owl. He's fairly new in the community. I really like his content, and I think you guys should go and check him out. Keep the link for his channel under in the description, so have a look there. He wanted to have a chat with me about, was it dating women?
Yeah, it's about hi everyone. Wanted to have a chat with you about especially dating while MGTOW. Now, how can men balance those two things?
Yeah, and I think it's an important issue. I mean, I have a running series on the channel, and you know the kind of comments that I get on that. But I think it's important to see how things would run if a man wants to still engage with women. And I don't think it's right or wrong. It's a personal decision for everyone. But if they do want to engage, I think it's important to know how it can potentially work out. And there are different ways to go about things. I mean, Barbarossa is dating. I think you're dating right
Yes,
now.
yes. And
Um,
I'm in a sort of a long-term relationship, for
uh,
over a year now.
over a year, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so wait, did you become MGTOW during the relationship or before the relationship?
Here's the thing, it's sort of it's very close together because I I think I first got exposed to MGTOW about a year and almost a year and a half ago.
Mm.
So yeah, got in, clicked on some videos of this guy Barbarossa. So I was like, okay, well, what he's saying kind of makes sense. So that was my first exposure. So and I was still dating, doing the Tinder stuff
Mm-hmm.
back then, and um, I started in this relationship when sort of at the moment where certain concepts were starting to get crystallized
Mm-hmm.
in my head. So um,
So, I mean, it is a whole year that you've been with this woman. I'm presuming that she has a certain knowledge of your belief system, let's
oh
say,
yeah,
by
no,
now.
she knows that I'm MGTOW,
Mm-hmm.
but no, she doesn't know which MGTOW I am, but
Mm-hmm.
because that would be just an absolute mistake, to reveal such a thing, for potential repercussions and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, but she knows my beliefs, and yeah, she respects that. So I suppose it's kind of important, like to put your beliefs out there, and like if the person really doesn't fly with that, then it's time to let her go. Just okay, bye bye.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I said it in one of the videos. I don't even remember which one. One of the most important things that a man needs to do is to be prepared to walk away.
exactly.
Eh,
Yeah, totally
and
agree.
Yeah, I completely. And it's at any point in the relationship, at any stage, however involved you are, however you enjoy that woman's company. There are certain things that are like red lines. If you cross them, then you
Exactly.
fuck off.
Yes. And the thing is, when you sort of like when you adopt this philosophy, your tolerance for that sort of bullshit just goes like way down. So uh, you no longer put with the sort of shit that you would put up with, in your blue pill days. Um, and despite being 1 year in this, I'm still at that mental point where okay, if the line is crossed, it's bye bye. It's done. Like I'm not even time isn't really a factor. I mean, if something happens that really interferes with like my priorities, my sort of self preservation, it's you got to be prepared to pull the plug.
Hmm. Well, I would completely agree with you. And the thing is, I mean,
This might sound
this
very cold, and detached, but it's kind of the way it has to be. If you want to maintain your self ownership, individuality. Yeah.
And I want to start with this point right here. We'll start with this, and because I've been, God, I've had people that said that I quit the scene because of what, finding a girlfriend or something. I don't have a girlfriend right now. I have,
Hookups. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
let's call them hookups. And the situation, as I see it, has been pretty much stable throughout me being a MGTOW, although I did take like 6 months where I was like ghosting
Hmm.
or completely. Like I was greasy as fuck, man. I was disgusting.
Yeah.
You could always find food in my beard. Like I was actively trying to be like that. But despite the fact that you're now in a relationship, despite the fact that, I find women that, they're relatively attractive, maybe some that I like as well. Um, do you think of your woman as an awalt or anything like that?
No, actually, not really. Because like when you're talking, AWOLT, when you're talking all women are like that. I
Mm.
mean, it's within their nature. It's those biological traits. I mean, it's trying to counteract that. I mean, even if she was aware of like her own nature, trying to counteract that would be like an uphill battle. Like Sisyphus, trying to roll that boulder
Yeah,
up the cliff.
yeah,
It's like there's a really cool phrase that the Romans said. It was "Volpe spilum mutat, no mores." It's the fox may change its fur, but not really change its character and nature.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
you
So
always got to be aware that there's really no walt. So
absolutely, and
yeah,
that is that is something that I keep telling people, that you always are so aware that that woman is indeed a woman like everyone else, and I don't
yeah,
mean
she
she
has
looks.
flaws, and yeah, and as a woman, there's flaws, and she's gonna be self-interested. She's gonna think about herself, but you just gotta you still gotta have that sort of presence of mind to put yourself first and to not tolerate certain things. And if certain things happen, it's simply bye bye.
Mhm.
There's really no point in me being in a relationship if I'm gonna be like super stressed all the time, or if she's gonna walk all over me, etc. Yeah, it's really might as well be alone then. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the I've had this discussion with Barbarossa, and I hope he doesn't mind that I'm going to mention this. I mean, the one of the main things with being a MGTOW is that you learn to be by yourself in a way,
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether there is a woman there or whether there isn't a woman there. If there are certain problems or certain issues with that relationship or whatever, you're not there to fight, argue, whatever. You just go
Yeah.
about your own
Exactly.
business. And I found, and this is so strange because I don't see it at all in the community. I see it with maybe some of the younger guys. I've seen it with Dark Knight when we're having chats with him, or with you who are slightly younger.
Hmm.
That once you understand how women are, right?
Yeah.
They're hypergamous, they're solipsistic, how their sexual reproductive strategies work, how they can, leave you at any moment,
Hmm.
screw you over, all of these things. Once you understand that, I became very tolerant in a way. I don't care, right? I see them behaving in their female ways, whatever, and I don't mind it, right? I don't care. I don't care to fight their nature. I fight
Yeah.
things that affect me in a way. So if someone's misbehaving or is giving me attitude, anything like that, then I will strike down. And I remember in one of the videos I said I will spank a woman when she misbehaves, and I do that. I actually do that, right? And I don't mean violently, right, where I
Yeah, but
just like whip her
just
down to submission, but no, I
just as a
do that.
symbolic thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Sometimes a bit more, plus they enjoy it.
Yeah.
She's some women seem to enjoy it anyway, so I
But that's in
do
the bedroom
that.
though.
Not in the bedroom. You can, you can have other people around, my flatmate looking at me strange. Things like that do happen from time to time. But, but
Okay.
yeah, I know. I am a bit strange in my personal life. But this is how I do things. And I mean, the fact that she's talking to her friends about, whatever is happening, or, the fact that, other guys might be hitting on her, or the fact that she might try and make me jealous, the shit test, all of
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah,
all of these things. I mean, they're who they are,
yeah,
right? So I don't care, right? I don't
yeah.
care.
That,
Plus, once you don't care, you pass the fucking shit tests
yeah,
without even trying.
yeah. Now that you mention, shit tests and all that, kind of funny thing that my girl told me once. Um, because you know how women will, when they want to ask you something or want you to do something for them, they'll like ask indirectly, have these sort of games, etc., to sort of lure you into the what they want.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like so like, do you need it like a ride or something? And she goes like, no, I'm good. And it's like, okay, and I just go, okay, and then she tells me something like, oh, I see, I can't be like indirect with you. I really have to I really have to speak my mind, and just because you, you don't do these games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Because they want you to want to do things and stuff like
yeah,
that. No, 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 no. Things on my time, on my terms. If you want to ask something
exactly.
straight
Yeah, yeah.
question, ask me a straight question. And the way that I've been doing things, and God, this is a recent example. I've had this woman who wanted me to express my vulnerabilities,
Uh-huh.
right? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm fucking awesome. I don't have vulnerabilities. And she's like, I'm fucking serious. I'm like, okay, ask me straight questions. I will tell you exactly what you want to know. But, I'm getting a blowjob. You're losing clothes in every answer that I'm giving you. And that is how I
Exactly.
do things.
Turn your own game into your own game.
Yeah, get something out of it.
Yeah.
And I look, man, I'm very in touch with who I am right now,
Yeah.
and this is the beauty of it. If you go about the journey, and we talk about female nature a lot, right? We do this thing where we talk about female nature a
Hmm.
lot, but once you do that and you understand that, and then you're done with raging and all that shit that many people seem to go through, then you need to figure out who you are as a person, figure out your own
Exactly. Yeah.
masculinity.
Yeah.
And there are no emotions that are too let's say damaging or whatever. We all have our certain baseline of how we operate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seen on the outside and how I behave, especially at work. I'm seen like a fucking emotionless beast, but I'm not like that. I
Yeah.
I am who the situation needs me to be, especially when it comes to patients.
Exactly.
But on my own, I do have emotions that go through my mind. I have things that I need to deal with. I have my own anxieties and all that stuff. And if a person wants to get to know me better or whatever, I have no problem telling them how I think. But I'm not gonna play your fucking games. Ask me questions. I'll answer my question.
Yeah.
I'll answer everything honestly, and that's all there is to it. And there is a certain freedom that comes with that, because let's say you
Because
see
you
someone.
no longer give a fuck about
No, because
what what they
it's
may
not
think.
going. Yeah, and it's not going to affect me either way. This is who I am. I'm happy
Yeah.
with this.
Exactly.
Insecurities, things that worry me and all that stuff, things that may be going on in my life, they're going to go on in my life whether you're here or not. And there are things that I need to deal with on my own, in my own time. So I don't have a problem telling you, but your opinion of who I am or whatever
Hmm.
doesn't matter to me.
Exactly.
Uh, and if you're not happy with it, go find someone else. And it's a very weird attitude to have, because um, it confuses the opposite sex, right? They're like, oh, look at him, he has emotions, right?
Yeah.
He's, but I don't feel like I can manipulate those emotions. It's a very strange place to be.
It's
Uh,
it's not so much, that they're shocked that uh, you show your emotions. It's more like they're baffled that you really don't care about what they may think about it. It's
yeah.
because they probably expect you to be all self-conscious about it. They just say, no, I really don't care. And like, if you have a big problem with it, it's just, okay, there's the door.
Mhm.
Please use it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there was a recent example where my this is not my personal example because my flatmate's been going through some like weird times, and
Okay.
he's been dating one chick.
Hmm.
Wow, over the past month, and it's surprising. It's usually like 4 or 5, but anyway, um, so he's been dating this one chick, and she wanted to know who he was, and he's like, okay, fair enough. I wrote some stuff because he was trying to work through his problems. I told him, you need to work through because you're raging, and you're raging in a certain way. Just write things down and come to terms with what's going on inside of you. And he started doing that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, there you go, have a read of this highly personal shit," right? He's like, I don't
Yeah.
have the time to go through everything. Just read this will clear some shit out, right? And the woman got fucking freaked out, right? We're talking about like a list of women, a list of like occurrences, lies, whatever manipulation that may have gone on there. And the woman got fucking freaked out. And he's like, well, it's who I am. This is how I was before. I'm sorry. If you don't like it, there's the door. And the woman just got up and left, right? And he went to bed. I was so proud, right?
Yeah.
He went to bed and went to sleep. And I wake up the next day and the woman's there. I'm like, what the fuck happened, right? And he's like, well, I woke up at around like 3 a.m. to go and get a glass of water. And as I walked to the living room, she was there in the living room. Like, you didn't lock the fucking door. Like, that was my
Like
problem.
like a stray forest animal, like
Just
looking
came
for
back.
food. Yeah. Looking for comfort.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, he told me to go.
And she came back, and that she came to terms with it. Look, I'm sure she will use it in the future and all that stuff,
Oh yeah, yeah.
to make him feel guilty, because
Hmm.
women do that kind of shit. But I think if he maintains the attitude that he has
But
now.
yeah, but the thing is, like, that only works if he starts caring about it. Because if it doesn't, it just flies right, right on the side. Just misses him entirely.
And look, I want to take it a step further, and I want to talk to you because you've been in a year-long relationship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first time I had feelings was like recently, over the past 3 years. I felt nothing for any woman ever. Like, I
Mm.
mean, nothing, not even like attraction. I would have sex with them, but that would be my dick. I wouldn't feel like any emotional, you
Yeah.
know, anything like, oh, I want to be with this woman. I'll be like, you need to go, right? That was my emotional like world before. And it's only recently that I felt, like with one woman, I think I don't mind spending time with you, and I'll share it with people that
Hmm.
this is also going on. But this is what I want to talk about. I mean, we talk about not caring, right?
Yes.
And not caring what they think, and how they see us and all these things.
Hmm.
But when it comes to the actual person, because you have spent like a year with her, right?
Yes.
You must give a shit about
Yes.
that person.
Obviously, there are feelings involved, but it comes down to priorities. Like, it comes down to not letting this sort of like blind love, that chemical addiction, supersede, like, I don't know, your own instinct for self-preservation. It's mostly that. Like, you have to manage things. You have to put yourself in first place all the time.
Yeah.
You
And
have to be a selfish bastard, basically. But it's how it has to be. Like, if one wants to balance two things, like going his own way and dating, you have to put yourself in first place all the time.
yeah, I mean, but we have to think about it in terms of like, you do have emotions for that woman, and even though
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're putting yourself first, right? Like you
Hmm.
say, that woman still benefits, right? Otherwise, she wouldn't be there. It's
Yeah.
Brifold's
Exactly.
law
Yeah.
all over again. So, I mean, I've had people that said to me before. I mean, who's going to um, subject themselves in such a way that they have to obey the rules, let's say, set by a MGTOW man, when they can have, all these other men that are blue pill, and they're just going to follow these women wherever they go. But I think these people do not really understand how interactions with women work. Look, I mean, the majority of every interaction that I've had with women over the period of time that I have been MGTOW were very short term, very, very short term.
Yeah.
Some of them went over a couple of months, but it was mostly fucking and nothing else. But even in that interaction, a woman was gaining the fucking, right? She was
Yeah.
always gaining something.
Yeah.
And I was gaining, getting some release and, then going about my own business. So women do gain. It depends how much they want to gain and how much they feel attracted to that man. I mean, how do you see it? I mean, why would your woman stay with you
Yeah.
rather than
I've
everyone?
I've asked that question many times, especially like considering my circumstances. I'm a young guy, just like fresh out of college. I barely have 2 cents to rub together,
Yeah.
and I've wondered many times, like it's not protection. I'm not really like this big tough guy fighter dude. So it's probably, I don't know, maybe she expects like some sort of maybe she's in it for a long-term investment. I don't know, maybe because of the my career path. She could be like maybe thinking, oh, there's maybe something to be gained down the line. Could be that.
I mean, I look at it like, I don't look at it in terms of long term. I don't think women do think long term, especially when they get into a relationship. But at all points in time, you have multiple people who would be hitting on your woman. I mean, it is a reality,
Yeah.
because we used to be these people as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I slept with girlfriends, fiancés of people, wives, ex-wives. There were children involved at some point. Not, I haven't slept with children, but I remember crying in the next room of another man's child. So that's the kind of shit that I was doing in my, let's say, blue pill days, and I've stopped all that shit because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? But women at all times, they find who's the best man available to them at that point. So there must be something in them that they find attractive to, in you. It could be the potential, in the future that you would be making big money or whatever. It could be the fact that you're secure in yourself, and women can interpret that as you
internal strength. Yeah.
Yes, internal strength, and that you'd be able to protect them. Whether you would or not, that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Attraction is an instinct, kind of like how you see a woman with like tight jeans or like yoga pants, whatever the fuck they wear nowadays, with the perfect ass, like shaking it in the right way when she's walking in front of you. Your attraction is involuntary, right? The same way your personality, internal strength and how you are as a person, is something that women find attractive. All of the women I've ever been involved with, they're like, I have no fucking idea why I'm attracted to you, right? Every single one of them. And they all think I'm like weird and, strange as a person, because I'm very eccentric. And I've always been like that. But they don't know why. So I think when it comes down to MGTOW, it is this thing that these men really don't give a fuck. And we don't mean we don't give a fuck about, let's say, women that we might be involved with, but we don't really give a fuck about their opinions. Our lives are our own. And there are risks that people talk about when it comes to women and getting involved with women and all of that stuff. But I find it unrealistic. And I think you agree with me on this. Unrealistic to expect that men would just completely switch off their instincts and go far away from women altogether.
Yeah, it's listen, it's returning to the point, to the battle against nature. I mean, it's something that, I mean, not men or women, can expect to ever, defeat nature. Like, you can just try and battle it as much as you can, but it's a never-ending war. Like, and as others would say, in order um, to change, your nature, like, you'd have to fundamentally change, how human beings reproduce. Like, it would have to be like this critical change at the species level.
Yeah. And especially, like, I say that with young men, it is especially difficult, maybe because there is more libido involved. Other people have told me, your libido doesn't go away. I mean,
Could be, but for instance, I would say that maybe I don't consider myself to have as much libido as the like most men in my age group. Like, I see, like, dude, I see friends doing all stupid shit. Obviously, they're insanely blue pill, but I mean, just falling head over heels, man, over girls, man, bending over backwards, all the way, and maybe, like, to satisfy, their libidos. I don't know, but I wouldn't consider. I wouldn't say that there's a standard. There's a standard for each age group. I think naturally you lose a bit when you grow older. But I really don't think there's that fixed standard. There might be a certain, like, pattern, but there's I think, in my opinion, there's quite a lot of outliers.
Well, I don't think it's mostly libido, right? Because if we were thinking just on our libido and just acting on our libido, people would be fucking left and right all the time. And we don't seem to see a world like this exist around. So I'm sorry about the dog noise if you're listening to it.
No problem. Yeah.
But I think for the majority of men, and we're talking about blue pill men, or people who prioritize women in their lives, they seem to think that their entire life's purpose is to find that one woman that is special or whatever, and you just go about your life like that. That's why they keep going out and
they're basically, I think they're on autopilot, as Stardust would say. They're on autopilot. Dude, I've been listening to these lectures by Robert Sapolsky. And like, one of the ideas that stuck is that you basically work towards continuing your own genes. It's not about, the best thing for the species. It's about passing on your genes to the next generation, and so forth.
That's what evolution is.
And so forth. And that's basically the autopilot. And I don't think there's a lot of and the thing is with blue pill men is that there isn't that awareness on how things work. So they run with autopilots, and it's that that natural mechanism to make sure the genes keep going to the next generation and so forth.
Yeah, and I think the last video that Stardust made, he was talking about the nature of, kind of like sexual reproduction between the species. The one where he was saying that he is not an ideologue, and he was specifically he mentioned at some point that we're in between. We're built for short-term relationships, let's say weeks or whatever, and we're also built for long-term relationships to medium-term relationships. And it seems that people keep shifting their reproductive strategy. And I've seen that even if you look at studies and the duration of marriage, and all of these things do get fundamentally influenced by the environment around us and the availability of resources.
Exactly.
So, and we don't know how that operates on us on an instinctual level, right? And both men and women get affected by this. I mean, the majority of men now also engage in short-term relationships, a lot shorter-term relationships, and it would make sense because there is abundance of resources. Women are hypergamous. If you get an opportunity, you need to unload and get someone pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Now, and we have a lot of like young women that have, children outside wedlock, let's say, and all this shit, or outside relationships altogether. And this seems to be something that's happening in our society of plenty. And no one seems to kind of like think that both men and women are affected by this. We seem to be getting focused on women because men in the past would also have short-term relationships as well. And perhaps our reproductive strategy has remained pretty much stable, but it's always the women that guide which way the species is going to go, because they're
They're
the
the limiting factor.
gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, gatekeepers to reproduction, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we seem to be forgetting that. And maybe there is let's say an instinctual thing going on there. Maybe it's just hypergamy going wild, like many other writers have suggested, like Rollo Tomassi. But it is what it is, and we need to understand that this is how women operate. Now, why you would go in a long-term relationship, I don't know. And especially with the risks and everything that's involved right now. But I think it's up to the individual. Like, for example, I said in a video, and I'm sorry for rumbling on, that if I find someone who doesn't make me want to stab myself, right, when I'm around them, and she's good looking, she's in my ears nice to listen to and stuff like that, then I might consider it. And it's weird because I'm not saying like I want someone special, I want someone intelligent, any of that shit.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and it's kind of, and it's exactly that with me. It's like, you find someone that exactly when you're around her, you don't want to stab yourself, you don't want to throw yourself down a well. It's someone that like respects your boundaries. Doesn't stress you out. And it's someone where you can actually, spend some time actually doing the things that you like to do, that you normally do if you should be on your own, but can do it with someone else. And that's there has to be a lot of tranquility, for the whole thing to work. Like, avoid stress, basically.
I mean, you said respects your boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it is a matter of respect, or do you think that you've enforced your boundaries, maybe unknowingly or knowingly, enforced your boundaries very early on at the beginning?
Could be a bit of both, I think.
You have to give me examples.
I could have just said, oh man, I don't know. I can't recall a specific conversation, but it's basically okay. I really enjoy, like, despite being in a relationship, I think it's important to have me time. To be at that time, to be alone, to be in solitude, just doing your shit. Maybe someday you just don't feel like going out, staying, playing video games or whatever, and I'll just tell her, like, if she wants to arrange something, I'll say, I'm not really in the mood to go out. Oh, I'm gonna stay home. And she's like, okay, yeah, we'll make another day. And it's basically that. Like, you started to tell her. I do remember telling her that. I mean, we had this conversation. We had already the conversation where I just tell her I'm not interested in marriage, the kids, etc. Even not interested in cohabitation. Dude, just having this like conversation over a couple of drinks. Just telling her, because it's important to for us to maintain our individuality, because what happens with a lot of relationships is that you have two people, and then they don't become two people, they become a couple, they become one entity, inseparable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like uh, but it's still important to, each one has its own life, has its own, circle of friends, etc. And then you just get together, at some times and enjoy some time together, and that's basically it. No
Hmm.
need to to have that sort of I have to be with you all the time, and you have to be. No, come on. It's like yeah, so that alone time, it's very important, at least in my perspective.
Hmm. I mean, how do I see it? I mean, I think that most of the guys instinctually know, and instinctually know how to maintain their boundaries, but they get maybe brainwashed to allow the woman to behave in the way that she wants to, and all of that stuff. And I've said before that I don't mind what a woman does in her own time. I believe
Absolutely. Yeah.
I I
Same
believe
here.
that yeah, I believe that women instinctively know that you are the primary man for them, and they just reducing it, right?
Hmm.
They completely walk away from other men because they're primarily, if they find someone that they consider that's my man, let's say, they will reduce the engagement with other men. Of course, not all that doesn't always happen, and
Of
women
Yeah,
lie about it
of
and all
course.
that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah.
But
Naturally.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and certain women will do this though, and you can't know for sure what woman is what unless you have, let's say, maybe some experience in the matter or whatever. But I honestly think that boys, for example, when you see young boys and how they behave with girls and shit like that, they throw things at them, they push them
Yeah.
around when they want to get their attention and stuff like that, and then they just do their own thing, like they're selfish little people, and they just go
Yeah.
about doing their own thing, and then everything changes, like
Yeah.
through teenage years and everything. Once people start telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that,
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that stuff,
They,
and that goes
they
away.
start compromising a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think instinctively the sex that compromises or submits is the feminine one, and I know.
Really.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that they submit
Why is that?
instinctively. Okay, so I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's in their nature to be a bit more submissive than men. That is my experience of it.
Mm.
But they need to find a certain man that makes them submit to them, and you don't do this by telling them shit, right? It's You do it with your behavior. You do it with what you do. You do it by just doing your own thing. And women instinctively submit to your thing, and they change their plans to see you. They do things in order to be with you. They ditch their friends. They stop seeing friends that
Mm.
they
But
that
as I see it, it's more like the other way around.
in the real world.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's you
absolutely, in the
see
real
you
world.
see I mean, you see men just like changing their interests, to better attract, women, or to suit, what they're looking for, groom themselves in a certain way, or won't spend so much time with their friends. You see a lot of that, and I think it's really important. Like you mentioned that childhood state where you just like you do your thing, you really don't care, and it's important that you keep doing your thing, and that's what I do. I keep doing my thing, keep having my interests. My interests. I guarantee you that my interests wouldn't be like the sort of thing that would attract a million chicks, whatever.
Mm.
So, but I do it. I do it nonetheless. And you know, some things she might not be interested in, but I really don't care. I'll keep doing them. I'll keep having my interest in and yeah, I'm really not gonna compromise and do that. A lot of change to to look better in her eyes, to be the man that she always dreamed about. It's really not worth it. So you just
But
maintain that childhood thought.
but that is the kind of attitude that I believe makes a woman submit to you. right? Because
Yeah, but
the
the
association is such
mhm.
that in order to be in your life, she needs to change her own life. And I don't care. I don't care how she changes it, and I don't really tell anyone to change their lives or whatever. I just do my own thing, and if it works out for them, they can see me or be with me or whatever. I don't tell anyone to do this, right? But they seem to be doing it automatically, and that's been my
Yeah,
experience.
I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Basically, yeah, someone has to adapt itself. Someone like if someone remains sort of unyielding and just unchangeable, and then the other person like necessarily has to like adapt a bit or give in a certain thing. But what you're saying, but basically, it's a rarity. I mean, we see that there's just fewer instances of that the man remaining that solid rock and just and the woman having to submit and like change certain things to please him. We see, I mean, we see a lot more of man changing to better please women. I mean, that to me, as I see it, the man changing their interests, their etc. Uh, seems to be the rule.
Mm.
What you mentioned is more like the exception. And it's fantastic when it happens, but it's an exception.
I agree, but when we say it's an exception, I think that men are actively behaving in this way, changing themselves
Mm.
in order to, because of fear that that woman will
Yeah,
run away,
exactly.
and that woman just gets turned off by them.
Yeah.
And a recent example, and I will give this recent example because of like a personal story of one of my friends. Like he was engaged to this woman and he was going to get married. They've been together for like, I don't know, 6 7 years, something like that, right? He
Mm-hmm.
was an awesome guy, fucking good looking guy, good guy, the kind of guy, if you were for marriage, you would want your sister to marry, you know what I mean? Right. And it was this kind of guy. Like I was very good friends with both of them,
Mm-hmm.
the guy and the girl. And he changed his entire life for this woman. I'm surprised the relationship lasted as long as it did, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because he was changing the way that he was behaving, he was changing the way that he was. He wasn't enforcing any boundaries. He wasn't behaving, let's say, kind of like I always see it like a father would behave to a child, right?
Yeah.
By telling them off every now and then, rewarding them when they're being nice, all of these
Yeah,
things,
yeah, yeah.
right? Then that woman started seeing him, she would tell me, he's such a nice guy, he's such a friendly guy, he's such a good guy. All of
Then
my
then she
friends,
loses a bit interest because like there's
she
nothing else.
lost in yes, she
There's
lost
nothing
interest.
else to achieve. Like it's like she has that sort of goal. Like, oh, I want to have like a certain man like this, so I'm gonna try and change my man to become this and that. And it's like when they achieve that, when like, the man surrenders like everything, and they just lose interest because okay, it's done. I've accomplished my goal. Now what? Now they move on, and then they go find some other Joe to to change our life. Like
Yeah,
uh,
but they don't want it to change the man. All of these things are shit tests. Like as you describe, as I understand them, all of these things are shit tests, and you
I
fail every single one of them. Like initially might make her happy because you're doing her thing, but her vagina dries that little bit every time that you do that, right? And I know that for a fact because I was sitting
Mhm.
there with this woman, and she's very honest, like because
Yeah.
we've been friends for ages. She knows what I believe, she knows what I stand for, and how I behave in myself. And she told me that when a man is like this, then you eventually do not feel attracted to them anymore. And I'm like, yeah, you basically see them as a friend, and it's disgusting to have sex with a
Yeah.
friend,
Yeah.
because if you wanted to have sex with friends, you would be a lesbian. And she looked at me and she's like, yeah, it's basically like that. And I'm like, well, you don't fall in love, or you don't like the man because of who he is underneath. You don't want to see all of his insights, all of his emotions, all of that
Like
shit.
they love what they want him to be.
Yeah, well, I they have that image in their heads,
Yeah.
right? And that image is portrayed by how the man behaves at when they first met him and how he is at that point.
Mm.
And once that man changes, that image keeps changing. And therefore, I always think of who a woman falls in love with or who a woman likes is a version of yourself that is not really you in a
Yeah.
way, right? And it is what it is. They fall in love with the human doing, we say in the community,
Yeah. Hmm.
rather than with the human being, and we should never forget that, right? And she sat down back. My friend sat down back, and she's like, "Yeah, you know, you're right." And she told me, "Why can't men be in a way kind of like?" Not behave in a way that they don't give a shit, give some attitude. I don't know, give a spanking every now and then, because she knows me, right? She
Yeah.
knows me
Yeah.
for so long, and she knows what I do,
Okay.
right? And why can't they do that? I'm like, I don't know why men like you, men love you, men want to protect you, and their protective instincts behave in such a way that they feel like they need to change themselves in order to keep you happy and keep you protected and provided for, and all these things, right?
Yeah.
The blue pill way, the
Yeah.
blue pill understanding of the world. And
Yeah.
she's like, well,
Yeah. Go on, please.
she said, well, that sounds good in principle, but my vagina doesn't work like that. And that's a woman that is attached, like she understands how her emotions work,
Hmm.
right? How she behaves inside, right? She doesn't want you to act to protect her, right? I see it like this: she feels protected by your mere presence around her,
Mm.
right? If you act in a certain way or try, it seems like you're trying too hard. It's a very fucked up way, right?
Yeah.
That they operate in their heads. But that just means that all you need to do is be you, right? And this is a very
Yeah.
a strange thing to say, because most people say, well, when I'm me, I will, be loving and caring and all that shit. I'm like, fuck off, right? Well, no man, I've seen no man behave lovingly and caring to any friend of his, right? Most of them will make fun of their
Yeah. You will
friends.
call him, yeah, faggot. What's up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How you doing?
yeah,
You bitch.
yeah, exactly. Abusive and all that shit.
Exactly.
So they're lying to themselves when it comes to that, because they have a different operating mode when it comes to women. I mean, we all do. Our dick always operates differently when we're around people with beards and people with vaginas, right? So it is different,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean our behavior needs to change in so much. And that is something that I used to try and explain to my friends and people, but I don't think they understand it.
Yeah. That there's not that level of awareness. You mentioned something
Mm,
a bit like the fear, that word, and that's like that's just crucial to understand why the sort of men change their attitude when compared with men and women, and it's that fear of displeasing. I mean, so that just makes them like reconsider everything and just like push the off button on their true selves.
mm,
And listen, and you see, for instance, like to give the the case of the examples of the P ways. I mean, there's a lot of fear in there, like in their attitude. I mean, they never say like to the guys, uh, just be yourself and don't give a fuck. They say, you know, like you have to dress up like this, go peacocking. You have to, yeah, pretend that you're having surf classes to be like a total badass
mm.
next to her. So yeah, just like shape yourself into becoming something that really pleases them 100%. All the things they could desire, and they just never tell you. You know, um, you know, don't think it too much. Just it is what it is. If be yourself. I mean, if they're not into it, fine, whatever. Like no harm done to you.
But that is that is the difference between the MGTOW way and
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
it's kind of like figure out who you are,
Yeah.
do what you want to do, and don't give a fuck about anything else. And if a woman comes and she's happy and she wants to be with you and you don't hate her, if you want to be with her, be with her. If you
Yeah.
don't, just tell her to fuck off and continue with what you're doing. But the thing is, you can tell how, let's say, a woman's presence affects your life. And I remember I was in a
Even for instance, excuse me, even for instance, when you're around male and female friends, I mean, it's completely different. It's a completely different dynamic.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you speak differently, you behave differently, and all
Exactly.
that
And
stuff.
just that there's a lot more comfort when you're just like in an all guy, group. But when you have like one female, suddenly it's like you start policing yourself. Yeah. But go on.
But that needs to go away. That is the kind of thing that goes away. And maybe we're not able to make it go away completely. Maybe we're not able to, let's say, remove all the instinctual behavior elements. For example, like if I see a woman and she's like good looking and she's next to me, I become more of an asshole, right? by default, because
Yeah.
I feel like she doesn't give respect to the people around her because she's good looking, and that pisses me off, right?
Yeah.
And I treat her like the lowest of like man that I could potentially respect, right? And that is that is the way that I behave, and that doesn't come from like PUA reading or
Yeah,
any of that stuff that I did before. I mean, I've lived with girls all of my life. There are fuckloads of like female relatives that I have, and I've noticed that they behave differently, right?
Yeah.
They behave differently and they respond differently, and to different language and to different behavior. They seem to be responding more into how you are,
Yeah.
right? And how you're like feeling at the moment towards them, and they care a lot more about the opinion of the whole group, or like how they appear at that point in time to outsiders. And I don't do that. And in order to make a woman behave herself, or like let's say keep a certain I don't know, behavior level, like behave nicely to the people around her, then you need to be very, very asshole-ish, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think of them like Rottweilers, man. Like,
Yeah. I'll even give you an example. You were talking about like how you deal with your female friends, and after becoming introduced to MGTOW and like just rearranging my perspective on how these things work, I just when I'm with my group of friends, so you have male friends and some females, etc. Dude, I just treat them basically as I would treat the men. There's for instance, like I have one friend that she's like, she's hot, she's a 9, and I just see that she like in her own social interactions, she clearly benefits from that. Like you have guys like so this is a friend from college, so we had like, for instance, the professors, like being really nice to her, etc. Yeah. And now that I know these things, like sometimes we're talking and now I'll just throw like that sort of shit in their face, like, oh yeah, don't look at me with those eyes. Yeah, you're trying to seduce me to do all these things. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. You go get your own beer or something like that.
Yeah. and get me one on the way back.
Yeah, and get me one, exactly. I just have so much fun, and strangely enough, they seem to have fun as well, because that sort of like makes them so much more relaxed, and like the interaction becomes a lot more natural. I don't know, or more, a lot more friendlier. Strangely, despite throwing these pebbles all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it from like if men could see how they behave with an unattractive woman around them, right? And
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
behave when there is an attractive woman around them.
Hmm.
They will see themselves behave so much differently. That I say this, just take the person that's in front of you, balls or not
Yeah.
balls, right? And just treat them in the manner in which they're behaving. So if
Yeah.
someone just enters your circle of friends and is acting like a fucking cunt, I call them a
Exactly.
cunt to their face.
Exactly.
I remember a friend of mine, like a good female friend of mine, I saw her after like a year, right? And she came and she brought this, who did she brought a female friend of hers. And man, that bitch, like she was a fucking cunt. How long do you think it took me? Less than 5 minutes to call her a cunt, right? Less than 5 minutes. And she was
Uh,
like, what? I'm like, you're a fucking cunt. And then we just completely blocked her out. And like my friend was like, "Be nice,
awesome.
be nice." I'm like, "No,
No.
she's a fucking
Yeah.
um, because it's how it works. I mean, you don't behave nicely to someone just because they have a vagina. That needs to go out of the window.
Yeah.
That is something that we need to explain to people. And look, I mean, there are so many risks that MGTOW men talk about, right? The risk of false rape
Yeah.
accusation,
Yeah.
the risk of like getting married
Hmm.
to a woman and losing everything, right?
Yeah.
Um, Other than the gynocentrism that goes around, white knights that will protect these
Hmm.
women, and all of these things. But man, fuck if I'm going to live my entire life in fear, right? Marriage, I can
Yeah.
just tell them fuck
Yeah.
off, right? I don't
Marriage,
mind.
dude, it's up to you. Like, if you don't want to get married, then it's not gonna happen. Like, it's not like she's gonna chain you and drag you to the altar if you don't want to. So,
Exactly. Everything else, though, you need to interact with women. I mean, especially at my field, and I'm sure at the field that you
yeah,
work
yeah,
as
yeah.
well,
Hmm.
you need to interact with women. There are women around.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely. There's a lot. Yes.
yeah, but I'm not going to behave in a way that's, let's say, not me, just because that woman is in a certain way, right? Maybe perhaps in a work environment when a woman is bitching at me and telling me shit, I will just walk away. I don't talk to her. I don't, and to be fair, that's what I seem to do in
Yeah.
public, just
Yeah.
walk away as well.
Exactly. Exactly. And hello.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay.
here. I'm here.
And for instance, like when I'm with my friends, and then like some female friend, decides to tell us to tell us all about her recent drama with like her work colleagues or something, and I'll just go, dude, I don't care. I really I really don't care. Don't you think maybe you're being a little of a bitch about it? Uh, maybe you're stressing, you're worrying too much about this. Like, just yeah, don't put so much energy into it. And I'll just go, okay, and then I get up, go get my beer, whatever, and I just leave her there, talk to the rest of them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it is a bit policing. Maybe people are thinking we're trying too hard or whatever. And I've had people that said that you don't have to engage with women, and perhaps like if you're at that point
If
in
you
your
want to
life,
be,
you don't.
yeah, listen, that's the thing. If you want to be like 100% safe, uh, like ensure that you have like zero risk in your life, yeah, then that's possibly the way to go. But as I see it, like there's maybe not a real um, need to disengage completely. Like, if you're able to balance things, if you're able to like keep yourself focused, and like with a certain mental discipline, then you don't need to like disconnect from everything.
Hmm. And I mean, even if you completely disengage, and I don't know how that's possible when it comes to my life, because the way that I see it is, let's say I completely disengage, I will still work with like, I don't know,
Yeah.
95%
Mm-hmm.
female
Mm-hmm.
nurses
Yeah.
around. There will still be some of them that will hit on me. There will be some of them that will
Yeah.
propose inappropriate things to me at work. And that does happen from time to time, and it has happened already. Um, but the reality is, uh, there are still risks to me, even if I don't engage with women
Oh yeah.
at all.
See, yeah, yes, yes.
And since I'm engaging either way, I'm thinking, and I enjoy the company of women, and I have female friends in my life. I don't hate women in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to engage with them, perhaps sexually. I want to engage with them in friendly terms. I want to have some women in my life, and it's not a addiction or anything. It is like they're 50% of the fucking population, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Uh,
It's hard to find a way to evade them completely. Yeah, it's really it's
it,
quite a
it,
challenge. Yeah.
well, it would be something along the lines, calling a friend and saying, "Are we going out?" It's like, "Yeah, who's coming?"
Yeah, it's
Um,
like
a woman's
10,000
coming, I can't
friends,
come out.
etc. Yeah, yeah.
It is. Then it's active avoidance. Then it's actually giving you like work
Yeah,
rather than
yeah,
just living your own life.
yeah. Then it's actually, yeah, you're right about it. So then it's actually stressing you out because you think, oh no, I gotta avoid that, and then strangely enough, it's like you sort of go out of your own way of like doing the things that you would normally do, hang out with your friends, etc. And and then you say, because I don't want to hang with that bitch. Yeah.
And I get it that some people see it as revenge or whatever, like a revenge fantasy, or completely removing themselves from that reality. But for me, I mean, my circle of friends has
But
women
listen,
around.
yeah, with that, if someone has still those thoughts of revenge, like seeing things as revenge, then that's still not fully disconnecting. I mean, they're still they're no matter how disconnected they may be, I mean, they're still thinking, obsessing about that revenge, about I have to get back at them, some way. But
Yeah, I mean that it that is the thing. And the like with my friends, I mean the female friends that I have in my life, friends that I have no sexual feelings for,
mhm.
uh those women, I mean, I don't know if they have, like, I know that at least one of them has sexual feelings for me, but it doesn't matter. Like, they have helped me in my life.
Yeah,
They've been there in my life, not
absolutely.
always,
Yeah,
but not everyone has anyway. And I don't, I have benefited myself from that
same here,
interaction.
dude. Yeah, exactly. I have female friends as well that have been like incredibly helpful to me, and then there's yeah, exactly. There isn't that sexual attraction going on. I mean, they're friends. I must say, some of them have helped me out tremendously, and couldn't thank them more. But yeah,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having female friends around. I mean, I dictate the terms of that in relationship as well.
exactly. You have to be always the one that dictates the terms, that draws those boundaries, like if you cross, this boundary, then it's bye bye.
Yeah, you're out, and
Yeah.
that's it. And it doesn't matter uh, that there are women. I mean, I don't see the outside world and blame them
Mm,
for everything that's happening. I tried when I was doing some of the latest videos. I wanted to show men that there are parts of our biology that do not enable long-term relationships and stuff like that, right?
mhm.
And we're just focused on women, right? We're just focusing on them and just blaming them for absolutely everything that's happening. But realistically speaking, there's always a fault that is ours as well in whatever interaction is happening. Maybe it is annoying to us or whatever. We don't know what we did wrong or whatever. But I want people to examine their actions and understand them with red pill lens now that they
Mm,
have those
yeah.
red pill lens. And if they find things that they've done that were wrong, maybe behaved in a way that was not appropriate, etc. We can't expect someone that thinks differently, right? Because they do think differently,
Yeah,
feel differently, right?
exactly.
Communicate in a different
Yes.
way. They have different intellectual powers, and that's from varies from person to person.
Hmm.
To appreciate the way that we were behaving and understand exactly how we were behaving, and then we take personal not blame them personally for everything that happened. We must have had some things that we've done wrong in our interactions as well, right? I
Yeah.
do think that the way that men are punished, especially men who were married or who have children with women, is completely unfair
Mm.
within the current legal system,
Yeah.
and we've spoken about that in length. But I don't think we are without blame in our actions. And I know people will freak out that I said this, but
No, yeah,
they shouldn't.
here's the thing. There's like, yeah, there's levels to it. It's like some instances like they're beyond our control, you know, like a false rape allegation or getting just destroyed in family court or something.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you also you mentioned that. Yeah, you also need to look back, for instance, on your blue pill days, you know, and just look retrospectively at the mistakes that you made that may have led to certain nasty situations. Like you know, uh, looking back, maybe if you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said yes or agreed to do this thing or play into her game, etc. Yeah, if,
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, maybe they think that, I was trying to
but
be nice.
there are some things that are still outside of our full control, and
Absolutely.
sadly, yeah,
Absolutely, and that is the problem with society, and that is why we have young men coming to MGTOW. I
yeah,
mean, I
exactly,
spoke to Spinosaurus Kin. That guy
mm,
is like fucking 18,
yeah,
right? And he believes the message and understands the message. And that man was not hurt by a woman, right? No
mhm,
woman has caused him direct damage, but he does it because he understands that the current system that as it exists, it's quite misandric and it's
exactly, yeah.
causing men a lot of damage for no reason and out of no fault of their own. And I'm not talking about those instances. I'm not talking about those instances.
Even like the things such as, you know, when you know kids are going into college, you know, and then they have to to attend those forced sessions
Yeah.
of rape
How not to
awareness.
rape.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's that like I mean there's a lot of it going on, that automatic assumption of monstrosity, I don't know, in men. Like they assume like, oh, men are just potential monsters, so you know, beware, beware. Uh, yeah, and that naturally that will breed a lot of resentment. So and naturally we'll be pissed off, you know, because we'll say, you know, no, that's not correct, you know.
Yeah, and
It's what I mentioned. It's what I mentioned in one of those videos, in one of my videos, the potential for evil. Well, yeah, like we can have the potential to do this and this or that, but you know, does it mean that I'm going to do it? Or like a woman has the potential to do this and that? You know,
yeah, and
does it
and
mean
and,
they'll act? No.
and we say that women carry a gun in every room, and that's
Yeah,
their word and stuff like that. Our
the
guns.
gun is basically society.
Yes, and
Yeah,
our guns are our fists and whatever we have on
yeah.
us at all points in time. And I'm not talking about
No, but
specific,
here's the
spec
thing. And even I mean even then, by that logic, then a woman could even carry, you know, two guns. You have like society, and then I mean, there are women that could, you know, beat a man, beat a man
exactly.
up. You know, could seriously like I have friends that go in that have like, you know, female friends that have martial arts classes. I mean, they could just knock a guy out easily. Like any untrained dudes could just be bite the dust, you know, by
Yeah,
their
and
hands. So
absolutely. And when we
yeah,
say that, I mean, in general terms, if you think about it, the majority of the violence is perpetrated by men,
it's
right? And
initiated. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it is against men that
Exactly.
violence
Yeah.
usually happens. But even the violence against women, it's usually perpetrated by men, right? They still become violent towards women, and they're in the far minority, and most of MGTOW have never been violent towards women at all. right? And most men will never be violent towards women at all because most of them have the understanding, oh well, if
The
I do
consequence, yeah,
something, I'm fucked, right?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Then like you have 8 white knights coming at you, and then the police, and then you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons. But most men just normally don't want to be violent towards women, and I personally was never violent. I mean, other than the spanking and the sex things and all that shit,
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person, and I've been attacked in my life. I've been attacked by other men multiple times, and that has happened. But I'm not scared to interact with other men.
Yeah.
Now, I don't understand why, if there is this potential of violence that can come from men, and it's much higher than what can come from women, especially in the damage that they can potentially cause personally, not if they call like 20 white knights and I get beaten to death. Then why should I avoid interacting, with other men and stuff like that? I I think if we just focus on the fear, if we just focus on the potential ramifications, then all we can do in order to be absolutely safe is live on our own in a small room without anyone coming in or out and order every single thing of Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And it shows that some people are going towards that direction, and I don't want to walk that direction because I don't want to live my life in fear.
Yeah. In the end, that's a very personal choice. I mean, it's each individual has to come up with their own, risk benefit analysis. I mean, you each one has to take fear and think, okay, what can I benefit from this, and what are the not the negative, like the fucking word,
consequences.
Consequence. What could I lose from giving into fear? What could I gain from giving into fear? And it's highly it's an individual decision. It's highly personal, and I don't think I think this is a thing we can like discuss, broadly, but it's not something that we or anyone else can say, look, you have to manage your fear in a certain way. There's just no way to make that in a universal way.
Yeah, and it does come down to personal choice, and it's why I don't mind what people choose.
Exactly.
Right?
Same here. Exactly.
Yeah, but I try to portray the risks or whatever rationally, rather than over focus on the risks or the potential consequences that can come up. I mean, potentially, if I'm that one person that gets a false rape accusation or whatever, my life could be ruined, right?
Yeah.
And we have men in the community that have gone through that, right? But even if that happens, right, I can still choose afterwards to either hate the opposite sex completely, and I'm not going to judge any man who does that, right? Especially when his life is fucked and got fucked through that. I don't think it's the rational choice because it doesn't make any sense. We're talking about one person, but I can just simply understand what happened, understand that I've been dealt a very bad hand, and then I can just try and rebuild my life in whatever way that I can. And that is being a survivor, and rather than being a victim to whatever has happened to you. And that does come down to choice, but it seems to be that the research so far suggests that if you live your life as a survivor rather than a victim, then you do better in terms of like health outcomes and all of these things.
Yeah.
And that's why I tend to sway that direction, right? But again, let people do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
right?
it's no, yeah, but to each one its own, like naturally. But in the case of like, imagine, the worst case scenario, you could have like a false rape allegation, or just to be in depth up your neck with, I don't know, with some sort of alimony. I mean, it's like important to know. I think it's important for a man to know its limits. like to know where he can tread safely. And like if he sees that a certain path, for instance, marriage being the most obvious one, marriage, even cohabitation, um, and they see, okay, man, the risks, there's just probably, tangential rewards, and there's just tons of risk. But I think I'd recommend to men, having, sort of like a backup plan, or two backup plans. Like, for instance, I mean, if, for instance, if it happened tomorrow, like if my girl, decided to, just go completely berserk and like put a false rape allegation on me or something like that, um, I know, like, I'm aware that I have for instance, the means to disappear without a trace, and that's sort of like my own backup plan in case
Yeah.
of like serious shit hitting the fan. So, yeah,
I mean, it's not a great idea. I mean, you don't want
yeah,
to be, you don't
exactly,
want to have to go through that. I
exactly.
understand the need of having a backup plan, and I always have like my flatmate around when I'm engaging with a woman, right? So he's not watching me having sex,
Yeah, exactly. Or you
but
have the tape recorders or something, the yeah,
yeah, yeah, but
yeah,
you have to understand. I mean, being in a long-term relationship as you are with a person, it's not going to be like you're not going to download an external hard drive and buy an external hard drive and just upload everything. You can potentially do that, but after a certain point, there needs to be some trust that will develop, etc. And I know
yeah.
you
That's
can
that's a
never,
bit hard though. That's
yeah.
it's kind of hard. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and I know it is unrealistic to expect that
mm,
this will happen, especially for people that know how things work, right?
like
But
if you'd ask me, like, do I trust blindly in her? No, I
exactly,
don't. I
exactly,
don't.
and it's the same with me. I don't trust anyone blindly, and I do try to have methods in order to, let's say, prove certain things if need may arise, right? And
Mm,
save messages, recordings,
yeah, yeah,
and all these things,
yeah.
right? And some of them I even consent them on video, right?
Mm,
So if I'm planning to do some nasty shit, that I'm video consenting,
yeah.
because she can potentially look bruised and all that shit afterwards, and right, it can happen. So you need to video consent, or you need to
Yeah,
record the entire thing, right, with her consent, right? Don't just do it.
yeah,
But you can never minimize the risks altogether, and that I completely understand, and I completely agree with those people. It is a choice, and I guess some people will be lucky, some people will be unlucky, some people will be burned, and other people will not be burned. And I cannot predict whether that will be me or someone else or whatever. I can simply state that right now, as my life is running, I want to engage with the opposite sex. Maybe things will change, and they do from time to time with me, but
yeah.
I try my best, right? And I am training to be a psychiatrist, so I
Hmm.
try to assess, right,
And there's
the other person before.
for instance, there's a lot of people saying, and then, like, if you get burned, don't come back crying. And I perfectly accept that. Listen, I'm taking on like this, like a certain amount of risk, for sure. But I expect that if I fuck up, dude, I I won't come crying, because yeah, I had the information, and then that may have been like a mistake on my part, and like. I,
Well,
I'm I'm full I'm fully aware of the
well, I mean, it's not really a mistake on your part. I mean, a false rape allegation from a very sick
no,
individual
like
is
that. No, then the mistake would have been like, associating with women, to those
yes,
saying that, you should just stay out of contact women. Then that would have been my mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have interacted so much. I don't know.
exactly. But that's what I mean. We still need to understand that people who, launch false rape allegations towards you, or people who, will cause you intentional damage, and all of these things. We're talking about fucking sick
Oh yeah, yeah,
individuals,
sure,
right?
absolutely.
And we need to understand that. And I'm not saying come back crying or any of that shit, or that you shouldn't have known better or anything like that. Maybe you should have, but it's still the other person who's a very sick individual who's actively trying to destroy your life. The blame is towards that person initially, but you have something to you had some involvement with that person as well.
Mm,
And that is the difference, right?
mm,
You have the knowledge, it's sitting on your head, and you're like, now what do I do with this, right?
yeah,
And it goes back to Stardusk's latest video. It's how you want to live your life. Now you
exactly,
have
exactly,
absolute freedom, right? You see reality as it is.
exactly.
And then you make the decision. I want to be like this. This works for me, right? At the minute, this seems to be working for me. If it doesn't work, I reprioritize, I rearrange things until I find
Yeah.
something that works for me and keeps me, let's say, in being fully content with my life. But yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned is like with the now that you have the information, do the best that you can do. It's like okay, before this we had this information, we were basically like trying to cross a dark room full of bear traps and pits and stuff, completely in the dark. And now it's like we have a lantern in our hands at
Yeah,
least.
or night vision, right?
Yeah. So we kind of know like where the bear traps are, where the pitfalls are. Yeah.
Yeah, and doesn't mean that you're not gonna forget and step onto one,
Oh,
but
absolutely. I mean, there's no way. I mean, to those that think, oh, that they're just reversing, and becoming blue pill again or whatever. No, it's impossible. You cannot unsee what you have seen. There's no way. I after being exposed to this information, there's no way I can forget it. There's no way I can repress that shit.
yeah. And it's good, man, when you have young men like yourself, and even younger men like Spinosaurus Kin, and
Hmm.
other young people that I've seen around. It's nice because all this information was information that was lacking for perhaps, let's say, older people within the community,
Hmm.
but they
Yeah.
have it now. And some of them honestly say they wish they had it before.
Yeah.
And we are
It's
we
like
are
it's like something that dads should have just like told their kids, their boys,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
beware certain things. Yeah.
And now it's now that we know, I mean, we're the examples of how this information could have, let's say, led um, for men to act if they were to know this very early on in their lives. And it seems to be that many different paths are forming, because I think of MGTOW not as a, let's say, perhaps as a community, but not as a movement.
It's
I
it's
think of it
yeah,
as
it's not really a community. It's like it's
knowledge base.
it's something the community kind of like informally, happened.
Hmm.
It's sort of it's a philosophy, it's a mindset. It's as I said, it's not really because it's such a distinct group of people that you cannot really say for certain that there's a sort of a cohesive community. So it's something very informal. Yeah.
Hmm. And the whole point of it is that there shouldn't be any cohesion, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Everyone makes a decision for themselves, and every man's MGTOW looks different. So yeah, that's why we seem to be arguing with many people at times. That's why there is a lot of infighting. But I believe that at the end of the day,
Yeah, I'd see it like a tree, like it's like there are different branches, but they share one root. Like they spawn from one root, from that desire, for freedom, for the like self-ownership, self-preservation, etc. Yeah.
yeah, and neither branch, I think, has it right or wrong. We're like different branches on the
Yeah.
evolutionary tree.
e- ev-
It is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've reached like an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
So
About. Yeah.
I think we're at that point now. Do you have any advice, anything to say to the men that are listening to us?
I'd say first of all, like you have to be really comfortable with yourself, and with spending, with being alone with yourself. And I eventually plan on making a video about this. You have to be comfortable, like in your own solitude, so that you don't seek, meaning and like approval elsewhere. Like those things really have to come from within, and then like you can just decide to do whatever you want. Like you can either continue alone or have a relationship, or have multiple hookups or whatever. But basically, you're placing that meaning, that happiness in life. It's still coming from within. It's not something that you're leaning on. It's not that crutch. So a lot of people see women as a sort of a meaning to existence, and they rely too heavily on them, and then when they go, I mean, they just crash. And you have to really be absolutely 100% comfortable with yourself, and enjoy solitude, not loneliness. There's often this confusion. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is something you really choose to have. It's like that alone time that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that the key point of being MGTOW for me was always like the freedom that it
Yeah.
gives,
Yeah.
right? And the freedom to make my choices, whatever those choices might be, and however I choose to apply the information that I have in my head. And I always say that find what works best for you and apply yourself in the things that works best for you, and put yourself first.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
always,
Absolutely.
always,
Yes.
yeah.
Totally agree with that. You have to prioritize yourself above whether people may need or want. Maybe a bit. Yeah, this may sound like super selfish and all, but yeah, it's necessary if you don't want to get fucked over. Because the thing is, like, if you don't look after yourself, it's not going to be society that's going to do that. It's hardly other people. Maybe like some really, really close friends, but yeah, in the end, like, you have to be aware that there may come a situation where you can only rely on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's spot on, and that's the right attitude to have. So thank you guys for listening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Go and subscribe to his channel. Link in the description again, right? Excellent content. He's fairly new, but I've listened to the majority of the videos, and they're actually very, very decent and excellent content. And
Thanks a lot, man.
as Stardusk says, it's a very pleasant accent to listen to as well.
Really?
Yeah. I like the accent as well.
I have Portuguese. Oh, I hope I completely have. I hope that I didn't add like a lot of accents, but apparently I do.
No,
Okay.
well, yeah, your accent is very understandable.
Oh, okay.
We both have accents, so I mean,
Yeah,
who are we to
we're both
judge anyway?
very exotic people.
Yeah, yeah, exotic and hot,
Yeah,
right?
I'm oiling myself right now.
Oh God, that's so tempting.
Nah. All right.
Anyway, take care, guys.
Thanks a
And
lot. Pleasure to talk to you, to have a chat. You really amazing. Take care. Yeah.
amazing, I'm not. I'm just all right, man. And the guys make amazing underneath. I hope they have like some good comments and shit. But
Yeah.
I don't know when the next video will come out, guys. Whenever and if I told you I'm out of actively making any new content, but perhaps I'll keep uploading these discussions, especially if we have like good topics that I think they're
I think it's
you know, we need to
necessary
cover.
topics because you didn't see a lot of discussion around them. There's like some avoidance, but you know, we
Yeah.
should touch, you know, the all the topics.
Yeah, we should branch
Yeah,
out and we
yeah, yeah.
should talk about anything that we want to talk.
If only for the sake of talking about them and just having something out there, you know,
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
discussion on it.
Absolutely, man.